Good afternoon. My name is Tim Royce, President and CEO of the Canadian Automobile Dealers Association, CADA. CADA represents 3,400 franchised car and truck dealers across Canada that directly employ over 178,000 people, contribute $28 billion to Canada's GDP, and pay over $6 billion in federal, provincial, and municipal taxes. This year, our members will sell over 1.9 million new vehicles, 1.3 million used vehicles, and write 31 million repair orders. Today, I presented in front of the Standing Committee on Environment and Sustainable Development of the House of Commons to let Ottawa know that our dealer members have collectively invested over $3.4 billion in the EV transition. We have been all in on the EV transition. But despite best efforts and historic investments, the current mandated pace of the EV transition is not in line with consumer demands or Canada's logistical challenges. When the Electric Vehicle Availability Standard, or EV mandates, was introduced, the federal government made several statements and commitments specifically related to affordability that are not valid anymore. At the time, they said consumer purchases of ZEVs will be supported by $2 billion invested by the Government of Canada in the Incentive for Zero Emission Vehicle Program, IZEV. That support was initially paused and has now been officially canceled. The mandated targets were improbable to begin with due to weak consumer demand, technology limitations across vehicle segments and use cases, as well as infrastructure shortfalls. Removing the purchase incentive moved those targets from improbable to impossible. The Prime Minister and Cabinet's decision to pause the 2026 mandates was a very good first step. We appreciate the many opposition and government MPs who have raised this issue as a concern for consumers and for the country. Now is the time to take the next step and remove these unnecessary mandates altogether. Other existing federal-level regulations, like GHG emissions, will reduce the emissions without dictating the technology that gets us there. The Prime Minister has also correctly labeled this time a historic trade rupture. In the spirit of all sides coming to the table during this crisis, dealers today made the following suggestions for progress on the electric vehicle mandate. Suspend the EV mandate until the future of Canada's auto industry is clearer based on the outcomes of the negotiations between Canada, the US, and Mexico regarding tariffs and a possible CUSMA or USMCA. Second, the federal government work collaboratively with industry on a revised trajectory for target neutral and technology neutral zero-emission vehicle sales to align with consumer preferences and the actual availability of charging options. Third, count all hybrid vehicles, not just plug-in hybrids, towards any new target. Next, exclude EVs and all hybrids from the so-called luxury tax. Implement a mechanism to prevent automotive companies with no significant manufacturing or dealer footprint, investment, and employment in Canada, such as Tesla and Rivian, from profiting from the sale of their excess credits. And lastly, the federal level should work together with BC and Quebec to have one framework, not three separate and distinct ones in Canada. In this time of trade rupture and an affordability crisis for consumers, Ottawa must change course. Many sectors have recently received billions of federal support to survive this rupture. All we're asking is to end this well-intentioned and meaning policy and let the best technology drive the economy and deliver emotional results. Our chief economist, Charles Benard, will now provide some data perspectives on this.
Thank you, Tim. Merci et bonjour. Je m'appelle Charles Benard et je suis économiste en chef pour la Corporation des associations de détaillants automobiles qui représente les concessionnaires à travers le pays. Et donc, je vais essayer de faire un peu la boucle sur ce qui a été mentionné en anglais par notre président en tant qu'économiste en chef. Et pour moi, la situation est évidente. C'est-à-dire que les concessionnaires ont et continuent à être engagés dans l'offre de services et de produits permettant aux consommateurs intéressés d'obtenir et de réparer un véhicule électrique. L'enjeu est qu'une offre de véhicule qui est mandatée et qui suit une courbe très agressive, c'est qu'elle n'a pas d'ancrage ou de lien, par définition, avec le niveau de demande de véhicules électriques. Et donc, les concessionnaires évoluent actuellement dans un environnement, évidemment, dépendamment de la location, où il y a une demande pour les véhicules électriques, une demande qui croît à un rythme naturel, mais elle n'est pas alignée avec le rythme qui était posé par les cibles mandatées. Aujourd'hui, j'ai eu la chance de donner des données et faire des exemples concrets à des membres d'un comité parlementaire portant sur l'environnement et le développement durable. Et je donnais des exemples de centres urbains pour identifier essentiellement qu'il y a une tendance, comme je l'ai mentionné, qui est positive, mais qui n'est pas alignée avec les cibles mandatées. Donc, à Halifax, en termes au dernier quart disponible, le deuxième quart de 2025, en termes de vente de véhicules électriques, à Halifax, on est à 4 Vancouver, 17 Winnipeg, 5 Joliette, 16,3 Une tendance qui est positive, qui est encourageante, qui est facilitée par les concessionnaires, mais insuffisante pour le mandat. Moi, je suis persuadé que cet écart-là va provoquer des effets négatifs pour l'entièreté de la chaîne, de la compagnie jusqu'au consommateur, particulièrement le consommateur, et ce, sans générer les résultats qui sont anticipés ou désirés en termes d'adoption de véhicules électriques. Tout ça, ça arrive à un moment où les prix augmentent et l'accessibilité diminue à cause des tarifs. Et donc, c'est notre opinion en tant qu'association, au nom des concessionnaires, qu'il s'agit du moment idéal pour revoir la viabilité du mandat et d'identifier une nouvelle approche, et ça, c'est important, adaptée au contexte actuel dans lequel on se trouve, basée sur des données et des faits provenant de la réalité des consommateurs et des concessionnaires, au lieu de s'enliser dans un débat qui est sincèrement purement politique. C'est le temps de prendre une décision qui est favorable pour les consommateurs, pour l'industrie automobile, dans une période qui est clé. Et donc, c'est pour ça qu'on est ici à Ottawa et c'est pour ça que maintenant, je vous remercie et j'ouvre à des questions s'il y en a. Merci beaucoup.
Merci. Thank you. If journalists on Zoom have a question, please use the raise hand function. Si les journalistes présents en ligne ont une question, s'il vous plaît, utilisez la fonction main levée. Todd Phillips, please go ahead.
Yeah, hello, gentlemen. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Go ahead, Todd.
Okay, good. Well, we understand, the political and economic forces that are driving the need to drop the ZEB mandate. What about consumer sentiment? How have the attitudes of Canadians been changing over time? Do you have any, recent polling data to give a sense of where Canadians are at on the issue of the ZEB mandate?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Todd. I think the best barometer is always what are consumers buying? So consumers have voted and made their opinions very clear with their wallets. And they are buying, yes, a growing number of electric vehicles, but they're most importantly buying a lot of hybrid vehicles. Plug-in hybrids, regular hybrid vehicles, those are the ones that are actually driving the market. And once you add up hybrids and electric vehicles, we're actually getting close to some of the targets that have been laid out there. So, which is why that was one of the things that we specifically proposed to the government that they could do to adjust the mandate is to actually include and fully account for all hybrids, not just the plug-in ones, in revising the standards. So that is clearly where consumer sentiment right now lies, and as I mentioned, they have already voted with their wallet for that technology.
Go ahead, Todd.
If I could have a follow-up question. We know the ZEB mandate was a policy initiated by the previous government, but there's a new regime. Do you have a sense of whether there's a tug of war, if you will, between the old guard and the new regime on the support for the ZEB mandate? And if so, how might we see that playing out in the new policy that arrives?
Yeah, so we won't necessarily dive into speculating on what's going on behind the scenes from a political perspective, but what we can definitely say and what we conveyed to the committee today was the electric vehicle availability standard, and right there the word itself already tells you what it's meant to do, was a pure supply side measure. Because there was the sentiment at the time that the only reason why electric vehicles and zero-emission vehicles didn't have a higher penetration in the marketplace is because these vehicles were not being made available in the marketplace, and hence what needed to be corrected was that's just fundamentally wrong. The jurisdictions anywhere around the world that have been successful in implementing and getting to a higher penetration of zero-emission vehicles, they focus on the demand side, not on the supply side. But even by the measures that, if you were to judge it even from the supply side, vehicles are available now in each segment and in each price category in the marketplace, but yet the sales are not there yet because the demand is not as high as was originally proposed and envisioned. And therefore, now is the right time to start adjusting. And why the demand is not there? Well, that is fairly easy. It's an issue in a combination of affordability, lack of charging infrastructure, and just the way our country is structured when it comes to remote northern areas, climate, that a pure electric vehicle solution is probably not the right solution.
Any more questions? Thank you. This concludes the press conference.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Merci, c'est ce qui conclut cette conférence de presse.